Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, my name is Matthew Miller, and I'll be presenting the Artemis Surface EVA Minisim overview for the first Minisim we conducted last year. And I was fortunate to be the co-lead along with Bree Sparks and EVA FOD to help make this magic happen. Next slide, please. So just kind of set the agenda here. We're going to set the stage, give you some context, give you an overview of the sim, who was involved, the kind of people, tools, and jobs, the execution perspectives and outcomes, and next steps for how we're leveraging this to build on this year's wins. So next slide, please. So just to set the stage here, we're heading back to the South Pole, and what the today's presentation is to give you an update on the most recent mission training development run for Artemis 3 surface science operations. So we're really starting to get the right people in the right room to start figuring out all of the nuance of the jobs to be done by this group of people. So next chart, please. And just before we kind of jump into how we leverage virtual reality, as Brett mentioned, we leverage a variety of facilities to help figure things out. And so VR isn't the only place to do it, and it has its deficiencies. But there's other ways that we're doing this. We're doing tabletop simulations. We're doing virtual reality simulations. We're going to the field. Cindy Evans will talk about the training flow that she's got crafted. These big integrated jet simulations exist. We're really trying to spread out how we can tackle various aspects of the mission, all of which are a facsimile to actually going to the moon and doing it for real. And so VR was the next area that we were able to stress test in this simulation to figure out what the wins were and what we could do better and how we could use this as a platform for getting the team well versed in the jobs to be done. Next chart, please. And so in an overview, this was a training development exercise. So really focusing in on what it means to train, what it means to get the flight team ready. So it provided this opportunity for the EVA team to work together to conduct Artemis 3 relevant mission planning and execute activities. So we had a dedicated planning phase that lasted approximately 4 months. And we basically worked to create a campaign of 4 surface EVAs at one representative site in the Billy Room 1 region, with the latest estimates on mission assumptions that we knew at the time. And so that guided the team's work. And then during execute phase, we had a 4-day mission execution week, where we conducted 3 out of those 4 EVAs that we planned in a simulated VR setup with all the flight team structure that Kelsey Young had spoke to earlier in the day. And we had surrogate crew leveraging VR while the flight team was arranged and trying to work as if they would work in Artemis 3. And all of this was intended to inform the work instructions and training practices that we would want to instill in the Artemis 3 preparatory activities that we'll need to do. Next chart, please. So who was involved? So we managed to grab a big team picture here at the end of the execute week that was conducted by this host of great people. So we had a simulation team that consisted of virtual reality programmers, engineers, training staff, surrogate crew, and anomaly team members. And then we had the full flight control team that involved both flight directors, ground IVs, the folks that talk to the crew during mission ops, the EVA team with the leads, the systems, the task, and the science officers, as well as all of the science support staff that a good, healthy representation of the science support staff. So this included the Artemis 3 geology team, the Artemis internal science team, and various other NASA staff that filled various seats. So we did not involve payloads in this sim. And so it was just dedicated to the team that's listed here. Next chart, please. And so if you take that team and you kind of abstract it out into the various groups of people that were involved, this people diagram here in the center gives you a sense of how those groups of people work together in concert. And the way they kind of each bubble touches each other is relevant to how the teams kind of group together and work together to help make the magic happen. And so you've got the flight team consisting of flight directors, ground IVs, and then within the EVA team, you've got the front room controller, the back room team that consists of the system science and task officers, and then the science evaluation room, and then eventually the science mission operations room that Kelsey alluded to earlier. And so within this team representation, this sim was really the first time we started to get to think about the team arranged like this, all the tools that we might need to bring to bear, and then specifically getting into the jobs to be done. So what are the tangible things that everyone needs to start doing along the planning and execute phases of a mission to make it a success? And so here I've just given you a working list of the things that we got to chew on in this sim. Ranging everything from the software tools, the traverses, even conducting the sim itself and coming up with the anomaly scripts, and how can we start to create situations and impose circumstances on the flight team so that they respond appropriately and help flex their communication and decision-making aptitudes. Next chart, please. And so here's some visuals of that flight team in action. And so this is a first person sort of vantage point of during the execute phase from the VR simulation team. So the crew in this case were what we would call surrogate crew. They weren't free-wielding crew members as they will be in the mission. They were part of the sim team and worked in the same co-located space with the virtual reality engineers and the anomaly team to help put on a production, right? And so here you've got the surrogate crew in the middle, wearing virtual reality headsets, and here I'm going to give you some first-person perspectives of what they were seeing. The virtual reality engineers were working to make sure everything was maintained and working as expected, and then the anomaly team was here to create circumstances within which would perturb the plan, right? Things will not go as planned in a mission, so we have to practice like we want to play. So things didn't go as well. Things started to decrease or comm was lost. All of these knobs that can get turned, the anomaly team gets to script that ahead of time and then impose that with the current surrogate crew acting it out and playing along and helping create an experience for the flight team. In this sim, we also got to start streaming information back to the flight team in a more flight-like way. So we had audio, video, and still photography all coming from this virtual reality environment and then being sent to the flight control team for consumption as if it was a real mission. Next chart, please. And so on the receiving end of this, in the flight control team, we've got the various workspaces highlighted here, front room controller, ground IV, flight director, EVA lead, all sitting in the same co-located space, being able to talk over air and also over the loops, and then connected to a different room of people, the multi-purpose support room, where the task officers and the science officers highlighted here are also then being able to talk open air and also on their consoles to support their front room. And then here we've got another vantage point of the science evaluation room that was mocked up. This isn't the actual room that Kelsey highlighted earlier. This is an approximately sized workspace that was used as a surrogate, but arranged like we had been practicing with other previous tasks involved. And so you can see at the front of the room some of the main mission feeds coming through, and then the various consoles arranged and staffed to support the rest of the flight team. Next chart, please. And so the outcomes here are listed. This was really the first time we started to really get everyone in the same room. And so we successfully created a campaign of 4 EVAs that represented the Artemis 3 surface mission at the Nobility Room 1 region for sim purposes. And so we created a canonical set of all the EVA flight products that would likely need to be made for a mission with relevant lunar data. And so we start to tie in all the relevant Artemis geospatial data team data sources and curating that into EVA flight products that the crew would eventually have to use. We leveraged the VR capabilities to conduct flight control team mission execution training, and we got to understand a lot about what we still needed to improve, and leveraging some of the highest resolution data sources that we do have. So in this case, this sim leveraged the shade from shading model data that was produced for this area, and then rendered that in the virtual reality scene. So all that detailed engineering work, broaching new ground on that. Flight control team successfully executed 3 of the 4 EVAs, arranged as if we want to work. And then we got to finally get to spend some ample time sitting in team debriefs and discussing the opportunities and challenges that the flight team could work on to increase their proficiency, and resolve and align work assumptions, right? Getting on the same page with nomenclature, getting on the same page with how words mean things, how quickly things need to be done, working with comm loops, working with in this flight structure, right? The science team is one team within this monster flight control team structure. And this sim got us the chance to start feeling how that will look, with just a fraction of what the full flight team will involve. We hosted over 40 different observers during this sim, from various aspects of both the vendors and NASA Enterprise, so that they could start to reconcile and think about how surface ops EVA would mean to them and their perspectives that they're bringing to bear for the mission. So a lot of cross pollination, and just kind of opening everyone's eyes. It's kind of like seeing it and believing it, and really starting to get the wheels turning. And then refining our understanding of the mission system tools. There's various software tools that we have in development and existing legacy tools that we need to figure out how to all work together and be as proficient as possible, to support Artemis. Next chart, please. So next steps. One of the big outcomes from this test was really to readdress our EVA, what we call the EVA development work instruction, which is basically a massive documentation that really describes the farm to table, right? How do we start from priorities and end with flight products? How do we start to deconstruct all the intermediate milestones that need to be arranged? What groups of people are involved to make those? So we substantially overhauled and rewrote our EVA work instruction based on this sim. The training staff that was involved in this sim got to really feel what the flight team might need, and is subsequently informing the training flows that would actually be in part for Artemis 3. So this training development run gave us that early quick look to feel out what it is it's going to take to make this stuff work. And then these experiences are right now being translated into the next training development run that I'm fortunate enough to co-lead again with Bree in the Artemis Surface EVA Mini-Sim 2, to be conducted. Basically, we're in it right now, and we'll be conducting that in October in the execute phase. So we're excited to have this turnover, right, and take what we experienced last time, where everyone saw a lot, experienced a lot. We now have a better, wherewithal in what it is we're trying to do, and we'll translate all of the things we thought we could have done better last time and do it again. And so creating that turnover with this many people, and getting on the same page and a shared experience for how we should be doing this is really exciting to be a part of. So I'm looking forward to briefing this even bigger and better mini sim later this year. And so with that, I'll throw some time back into the pot, and excited to take any questions here at the end of our session.